When people talk about starting over in life at 50, they make it sound so inspiring, even empowering almost. Like life is this beautiful moment and suddenly you discover your purpose and everything just works out. But there are a lot of things that people don't talk about when it comes to starting over after 50, and I've been living it. Because a couple of years ago, I found myself in a place I never expected to be, having to rethink my life, rebuild my life, and think about what my future was going to look like. And while starting over can absolutely lead to some amazing things, truth is the journey is really a lot more complicated than people make it seem to be. So today I'm going to talk about the things that nobody talks about when you're starting over after 50, not the Instagram version, the real version. One of the first things nobody tells you about starting over late in life is how emotionally disoriented it can feel. When you spent decades building a career, a routine, and a certain version of yourself, you start to believe that that's the path your life will always follow. You have a plan, you know what your life is supposed to look like, your future is supposed to look like, and then something happens that completely disrupts that. For me, it was a job loss. For some people, it could be divorce, it could be health changes, it could be simply realizing that this version of yourself no longer fits who you want to be in life. And then suddenly you're standing at the beginning of something new, whether you planned it or not. And that moment can feel scary because starting over when you're 25 is completely different when you're starting over at 50. Another thing that can make starting over look difficult is that comparison trap, because it's very easy to look around and feel like everyone else is further ahead, especially at this age. You see people that seem like they got their lives just figured out. They have successful businesses, established careers, stable path that they're on. And meanwhile, you're sitting over there trying to rebuild from scratch. But comparison, we know, is that fastest way to lose your momentum because your timeline is not supported by what someone else's life look like. And the truth is, a lot of people reinvent themselves late in life. They just don't always talk about the messy middle part while they're going through it. Another thing nobody talks about when you're starting over after 50 is how much you are going to be questioning yourself. You start replaying all your decisions. You wondering if you should have done things differently. I wonder if, for me, if I would have took another job, if I would have took a different job offer than the one I had, would I not got laid off? Would I be somewhere different right now? Everything in my mind. You start to ask yourself questions like, did I miss my window? Is it too late to reinvent myself? Am I capable of building something new at this stage in my life? And honestly, the truth is society doesn't make it easier for us either, because we live in a world that celebrates young entrepreneurs, young creators, and young success stories. But when you're over 40 or 50, people often expect you to stay in a lane that you've always been in, to keep doing what you've always done. But life really doesn't work that way, and we know this. And sometimes our biggest transformations happen later than we expected. Something else nobody talks about when you're starting over late in life is that you might have to learn a whole new world. And for me, that was content creation. Learning about YouTube and how YouTube works. Learning about the algorithm. Learning how each platform performs differently. Learning about editing, lighting, sound, all those different things, and figuring out how creators actually make money online. Things I never imagined that would become a part of my life. And I'm not here to tell you that any of it is easy, because it's not. There were plenty of moments where I felt completely outside my comfort zone, and sometimes I still do. Moments where I wonder if any of this is even working, or is it even worth trying? But what I've come to learn is that growth doesn't stop because you reach a certain age. Your ability to evolve, learn something new, and build something new is still very much alive. Sometimes it just requires the courage to take the step in unfamiliar territory. What a lot of people often don't see also about starting over is that quiet determination behind it. The long nights of learning something new. The moments that you keep going even when the results are low. And the days when you're building something that nobody really understands. Reinvention is rarely loud in the beginning because most of the time it happens quietly behind the scenes, one small step at a time. Now, here's the part that kind of surprised me, because starting over comes with uncertainty, but it also came with this sense of freedom. When you're younger, many of your choices are shaped by expectations, career expectations, family expectations, societal expectations. But when life forces you to reset, something inside you shifts. You start asking yourself deeper questions like, what kind of life do I want to live? What kind of work do I want to do? How can I be fulfilled in the next thing that I do? What kind of impact do I want to leave? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? And those questions alone can lead you down a path that you never explored before. And for me, that path was documenting my journey and exploring income stream paths that I never thought of before. Something I never imagined doing, but something that has now opened a completely new chapter in my life. Something else you have to get comfortable with when you're starting over later in life is that beginner again. which can be a very humbling experience. Because when you spend years and experience and knowledge and being very confident in what you normally do, sometimes doing something new can make you feel like you're starting over from square one, like learning a new technology, learning systems. But there's also something very powerful about allowing yourself to be a beginner again. Because beginner agains like to ask questions, experiment. They grow faster than people who are afraid to even start. One of the biggest mind shifts for me throughout this journey, and I talk about this so much, is realizing that you cannot depend on one stream of income, one opportunity. And for a long time, I was that girl that felt like I didn't want to work a second job. I didn't want to, I didn't need to. I had this job paying me well into the high six figures. Why do I need a second job? And for a long time, many of us was taught that the safest path was to rely on that one job, that one career path, that one paycheck. But life always has a funny way of showing us that things are not guaranteed. And that sometimes these moments of disruptions force us to think differently about our life and where we see ourselves. For me, starting over means exploring different ways to create income, to build something of my own, and to take ownership of my future. And not because I have everything figured out, but because I never want to feel completely dependent on one thing ever again. What I'm also learning about this process of starting over is that it doesn't mean that your best years are behind you. I know people love to say that, oh, my best years are behind me, but it really doesn't mean that. It can actually mean the opposite. Because honestly, you've lived long enough to truly understand what really matters. You start making decisions differently. You stop chasing things that really don't align with who you are. And you start building something that's a little bit more intentional, something that feels like yours. If there's one thing I learned about starting over or my reinvention is this. Reinvention is not about becoming someone completely different. It's about becoming aligned with the person you are now. Because the person you were 20 years ago is not the same person you are today. Because your priorities change, your perspective on life change, and your definition of success has changed. And sometimes, just sometimes, life gives you an opportunity to build a life that reflects that new version. Now, starting over at 50, it's not easy. It is uncertain and it can be very uncomfortable and scary, but it can also be the beginning of the most powerful chapter of your life. Because I feel like starting over reminds of one important thing. Your life isn't finished yet. You still have time to create something meaningful. And sometimes the life that you're meant to build is the beginning or the moment the old life falls apart. So if you're new here, this channel is about me documenting my real journey, rebuilding my life, becoming a content creator, and building multiple streams of income for myself after the age 50. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video with someone who might be looking for some truths about starting over later in life. Make sure you leave me a comment down below if you are going through your own life reset. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.